Cool. Well, we will go ahead and get started. Welcome to the February edition, 2026 .NET Meetup. We're going to talk about Microsoft Agent Framework tonight. I will preface this by saying I am by no means an expert in this stuff, but I saw it come across the feed and was interested in it, so I've deep dived on it a little bit and can at least talk to it at a high level, and wanted to cover it with us tonight. I've got a couple of demos, and then we'll see what AI can do past that. So, anybody heard of Agent Framework? Go using it?
I went Node and not Microsoft for my Agent Framework, but yes.
Okay. Cool. So we'll dive in as far as announcements. I don't think there's much of anything. Y'all have anything coming up or anything in the community that's going on we should know about? Cool. All right. So it's all on GitHub. Microsoft Agent Framework. So you can get all of the quick starts and tutorials. There's all kinds of learnings and things that we'll look at. As far as, I do have a couple slides here. So Microsoft Agent Framework is a platform that Microsoft provides to make working with AI agents easier. And so it has hooks into various other Microsoft services as you would expect from almost any Microsoft service. So there's lots of integration points that you can use. But it's an evolution of a couple of frameworks that they've had for a little bit longer, Semantic Kernel and AutoGen. And so I'd never used either of those, but in October of last year, they announced that they were combining those capabilities and releasing the Microsoft Agent Framework to replace those. So I do understand that it's pretty easy to migrate from these to Microsoft Agent Framework. Some developers likened it to a .NET version upgrade from 9 to 10 or 8 to 9, for example. But some of the benefits and the features of Microsoft Agent Framework, obviously it's a unified platform. They've brought these two tool sets in to a single platform. It supports open standards like MCP, agent-to-agent communications. It's extensible, so they have, I think they call them extensions, that you can add into it as well. I don't think I have any of those to demo, but there's some of those out there. Right now, the two primary languages are .NET and Python, but I believe more are coming, so look out for that. And there's a lot of emphasis on orchestration of agents. So prior to Microsoft Agent Framework, my understanding is Semantic Kernel and AutoGen didn't have a great story for using multiple agents or orchestrating agents together. And so this was, the Microsoft Agent Framework is intended to make all of that better. So if we look at what this encompasses, you have the agents themselves. So the interfaces to the large language models that are out there that give you inputs and outputs to that. You've got tools, actions, and functions, and then you have the context that you use with that. And so now we're building in the orchestration or workflows into that as well. So just from a high level, just picture of basically the same thing. You've got your LLM model, and you've got tools associated to that, and those are encompassed by the AI agent. And then you have tasks and response coming out of that, and then integrations into outside systems as well. So fairly standard agent-based theory here. That's really just another picture of the same thing. So where might this sit in an example application? You would have some UI front end that the user interacts with, a protocol against your server, and within that server you can leverage the Microsoft Agent Framework in your custom code to make working with agents easier. So everyone's should be familiar with using AI agents through Claude Code or ChatGPT, Copilot, one of those. Those are all applications that the large language model vendors have provided, but you can use and take those same capabilities and technologies and build them right into your app for your specific use case. You all right? All right. Any questions so far? It's all high level stuff. So, why did Microsoft see a need to go into this multi-agent, build this platform for multi-agency? It helps with distribution of problem solving. So, if you've used agents a lot, you'll quickly find that as your context gets larger, you start to lose accuracy. At some point, it'll likely compress the context, and you'll lose some of that, and it's just harder for the agent to process all of that. So by having many smaller agents, you can custom create each agent for a specific job. It can do it really well, and then you can orchestrate between those. Scalability, kind of the same aspect there. You can scale out workloads to different agents. It gives you much more flexibility to build as many models and agents as you need. And then, in theory, you can speed up results and processing as well by either going parallel to multiple agents or going to specialized agents that can perform the task that you need more quickly. All right, so with that, we'll get into some code here. So, figure out the best way to show this. I've got a couple of demo apps here, and so we'll just start with the chat agent demo and look at the program for it. So, obviously the agent framework is using all the best practices that have been around for a while. And one of the things that was difficult with the semantic kernel in AutoGen was swapping between different model providers. So there's a whole load of different options that you have. So Microsoft and Azure has the Microsoft Foundry that allows you to use their models and OpenAI there. You can go direct to Claude from Anthropic or ChatGPT direct or Gemini from Google. And then you have local models as well with Ollama interfaces that you can run, and then OpenCode. Anybody used OpenCode yet? Yeah?
OpenCode, another that's come out recently, you mentioned AI Foundry has a local runner now.
Yeah, what's it called? I saw that one. Something local, right?
Foundry Local,
yeah.
Foundry Local or something like that.
I didn't have time to look at that one, but that seemed interesting as well. But the idea here is you really, it's nice to have the flexibility to go where whoever has the cheapest price, or maybe integrating with vendors that maybe you're using other workloads with. But
model routing is also a big thing where you route to the fastest, cheapest model for any kind of given
absolutely
coming in.
Yep. So one of the main things that they've done here is they've defined this chat client interface. So before you would spin up an Azure chat client or a ChatGPT chat client or an Ollama chat client, and so then if later you wanted to change, which model provider you were using, it was much more painful to swap those out. Now that they have this interface, they're providing the platform and the SDK and the abstraction points to make this much easier. So this is a OpenAI chat client, and so we provide it. It gets the key from the environment, and then it has a concept of a chat message. and you can tell the system, what is it, what does it do, and start to customize that agent. So similar to Claude or any of these agent tools that we've used, where you give it instructions for how to behave, you can do that in the context of your application as well. And in this case, we're just giving it a static user prompt. We could change this to say, hey, pull a unique prompt from a web UI. This is all .NET, so you can run this in a Windows format or a web ASP.NET app. You can do it in Blazor, so a mobile app with Maui. Anywhere .NET runs, you should be able to use this platform. So, just for example's sake, I'm doing both sides of the conversation, giving it instructions for how it needs to behave as an agent through that chat roles.system message, and then there's a user message there, and then we output that just to show the user what we're doing, and then we get a response back from the chat client. We write that response out, and then another big thing that's built right into the platform, which wasn't there before October, was a stateful chat. So here we're adding additional messages to the what type was this list of chat message. So that way you can keep the context and the session going, as opposed to having single one-off, and so the chat agent can continue to use the full context of the entire conversation, and that's built right into the platform as well. And so here we're asking a follow-up question, writing the response out, getting the response, and then that's it. So I'm just going to demo it from the terminal. So So here I've got my program file. I'm just going to call .NET Run. Again, you can execute this type of code from any of the .NET platforms. And if I'm still connected to the internet, we should see the user asking what's capital of France, and the agent comes back and says it's Paris, and then we follow that up with, all right, what is its population? And then it gives a response based on that. So you can quickly and easily see that it's very easy to develop a quick Hello World AI app that you could integrate into whatever your custom solution is. So what's interesting is the problems that we're solving today with custom or bespoke code to solve the problems that we have. How many of those could an agent just handle for us without us having to write all the C# necessary for that? So it kind of opens up a new world of possibilities. You got to consider the cost of it, but I would venture to guess that a lot of it is going to be cost effective compared to custom development. But it's another way.
I've seen some interesting, very complex workflow where it's all written in plain English, which is great until you get the non-deterministic aspects of AI. And
Yep.
It works fine one time, but then another time,
Yeah.
you get.
So that was an interesting point that they brought up in the context of orchestration and workflows and having multi-agent is you get more determinism, right? It's not just a complete wide open, hey, whatever the agent is feeling like responding with or whatever it happens to find on the internet. Especially if you're doing local agents with a RAG implementation where you've got your own data sources, you can start to get more deterministic results. And then at the end of the day, you got to have really solid evals where you're testing and saying, hey, given these dozen, 100, 1,000 prompts, these are the kinds of results that I would expect. And what's cool is you can use the agent to say, hey, here's the prompt, what's the response, and how close is it to what I would expect it to be to figure out how deterministic is it. So, but any questions on that so far? That make sense?
kind of a specific
Okay.
thing that you may or may not know. So the iChat client, I thought that was part of like one of the more base libraries. Yeah, the extensions AI, which is not necessarily part of the agent framework. I've had a hard time trying to follow and keep track of like exactly what all of the different like Microsoft libraries are because they have a couple different ones.
Yeah, I'm not sure which. Let's see. Let's go to the GitHub page.
I mean, I would imagine the like iChat has to be a pretty foundational fun because it's just such a global standard now.
Right.
And then the agent framework, like that's a whole different layer. I mean, would use an iChat client, but agents have more stuff.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with what packages include which classes, but it seems like it is so foundational that they built it into some of the core. Because I'm not even seeing add the agent framework unless it's just Microsoft Agents package identity. Yeah. There's the extensions.ai. I don't know. That's a great question.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Cool. So that is an example of using an open AI. And then I have an Ollama demo. So here, everybody read the code okay? Okay. Very similarly, we have an iChat client interface. We're building a GetChat client, and this one's pointed to our Ollama host. So Ollama is a local runtime for running local models. And so this demo doesn't use anything on the web at all. It's all just using a model that's running locally in a container. So let's see.
If I can show them the stream response there.
Yeah, so I've got I think it's this one, Ollama demo container that's running the Ollama image on my local machine. And so if I go into this demo and run, it's using that same platform. And so you could, I have two different projects, but I just wanted to be able to show the first one and the second one and how similar they are. But you can imagine it would be very easy to go back and forth between different clients if you needed to. So in this case, the user is asking to write a haiku about coding. And I've run this a few times, and it definitely doesn't come back with the same thing every time. It is slower because it's running on a model on my local machine, but it should come back here. And what's interesting is it will stream it. So you'll see it's doing one word at a time. The previous one, it was just a get response, and so it waited for the full response. And so depending on how long that takes, it would wait until it had the full response, then show it. In this case, we're streaming the result, so it's showing kind of word by word, which at least gives the appearance of better performance to a user if they're not sitting and watching a spinning circle of death for very long. So we'll look at this code. So here, again, this is a system prompt of you're a helpful assistant running Ollama. The user says, hey, write me a haiku about coding. And then it's getting the stream response, and as that response is shown, it writes it to the output. And then we got some error handling. So, but it's, at the end of the day, we're still just creating a chat client, providing it whatever credentials it needs, or path to the agent host, and then it is able to use that iChat client. And so here it's get streaming response instead of just get response. Make sense? Cool. And then I had an Azure AI to pull from Azure Foundry, and it last I looked it wasn't working. We'll see if see if it
Totally blame Azure AI Foundry for that.
yeah. Yeah, that's not going to work. Nothing. Nope, it's still going. Any questions while it's thinking?
Is the semantic kernel still a thing?
No. This I think I said that right before you came in. This replaces the semantic kernel and AutoGen. So in October, they came out with Microsoft Agent Framework and said, "Hey, this is the successor to semantic kernel." I've heard several developers talk about how easy it is to migrate from semantic to Agent Framework.
So it's to say how much easier it is to use than semantic kernel.
It's got a lot of additional capabilities. So, from what I understand, the semantic kernel had a harder time with being able to swap between models, being able to use multiple models in the same kind of app. And so Agent Framework is kind of built around having a multi-model approach.
So it's like their competitive offering for something like LangChain, LangGraph in particular. The extensions.ai looks like LangChain, which is just connect to a LLM. And AutoGen was their agent framework at one point.
Huh. It worked. I had already done that like 6 times and I hadn't figured it out yet. So the demo is going well. All right, so in this case, it's made a bunch of changes to get everything set up correctly. Honestly, this was more about my ignorance on how to get the right connection string from Microsoft Foundry. That UI is like really complicated. It's very capable. It has lots of features, but being new to it, I was struggling to find it. And so I was really just said, "Hey, Copilot, go figure it out." And so I guess 7th time's a charm.
And if you can figure out their pricing models,
It's even harder.
Good luck. I gave up trying to figure that out and just,
But
when we go out with the Microsoft startups, we're not going to get charged $10,000 a month.
yeah, you have to have some really good pricing alerts to make sure you don't get caught.
Yeah.
All right, so in this case, it's a Azure OpenAI client. Again, creating that and assigning it to our iChat client. And then again, we can use chat messages, the chat roles, we can get the response, write it out to the client. So it's 3 different chat clients that we've used all against the same chat messages and the chat client. What's cool on the Microsoft Foundry side, like have you used the AI search at all?
Mm-hmm.
That's supposed to be really strong from what I understand. But there's all kinds of capabilities out there that it can leverage as well, specialized agents and things. But for me, I'm looking for potentially using some locally hosted models for quick response or small responses before I go and do bigger stuff as kind of a cost savings measure, in addition to using local data stores with hyper specific data that a web agent wouldn't be able to find. And so having a local agent that can access that hyper specific data and or cut out the need to go out to the web and spend tokens out there, and just use my local processing is kind of an approach that I'm looking at.
Yeah, Chroma, DB, and some of the local vector stores are really good.
Yep. So that's interesting. I've a lot of the YouTube videos, at least in the last couple months, have talked about how RAG is dead, and there's all these alternative things now, and so it's interesting to see some of the different results that people are getting from different solutions.
So it's interesting. RAG as a concept, vector stores might be arguably not the most effective way.
Right.
Vector stores
Yeah.
combined with other agentic RAG.
Yep.
Because RAG is just the process of retrieving information real time, so context stuffing, figuring out how to load the right context at the right time. That context engineering is absolutely critical in
Cool.
creating best agents.
Let's see what else AI can do here. So create a new project and combine my first two demos in a workflow that will prioritize the Olama chat if the user asks for a haiku. Alright, we'll see what it does. While it's doing that, we'll go look at.
Have you loaded your context? So in workflow, is it in your context? Have you told it like you're using Microsoft Agent Framework?
Yes, yeah. So I started out with, hey, I'm going to do a presentation for the .NET Meetup, and I'm presenting Agent Workflow. So yeah, it should. We'll see. Crap. I don't want to press allow. Anybody know the? It's not tool approval. Chat settings. There it is, global approval. All right, we'll come back and check on it. It should do it today. All right, so we talked about multi-agents, so workflows. So there's all kinds of structures and use cases that you can have for this. We've talked about a couple, but you still have a user request, and then you still have outputs, but it's that stuff in the middle where you're retrieving extra documents, or you're distributing it out to parallelize and speed things up, or you're looking for the right agent for the right job. But there's all kinds of things there, and so there's different actual workflow patterns that the Agent Framework supports. So you can just do sequential, or if you know it's going to go through the same things and you want 3 specific agents that can do their jobs really, really well, as opposed to one big agent that you're asking it to do 3 specialized things on. You can go concurrent, which is the parallel path, but then they also have a handoff as well, where once you go down to the second tier of agents, those agents can actually talk to each other as well. So it's agent teams kind of at that point that can work on things. So there's different structures there that you can actually leverage. Any questions on that? So it's down to the building step. Let's see what it did here.
Does Microsoft have its own model now that runs on its new MIA 200 chip that they just released?
I have not seen anything, but I know they're working on one. Anybody know?
They've had, I can't remember the name of it, they've got some small language model plums that they built in the past that have released, but I don't think they've done a major foundational model that I've seen.
This chip that they created is supposed to compete with NVIDIA
do something.
And then Copilot agent stuff is
It's got some interesting things.
it's okay. It seems like I get better results. You can use OpenCode and hook up to your Copilot account
Right.
and use it, and I've had better results with that.
Getting into a separate, like,
Yeah.
separate system prompts and separate orchestration engine.
Yeah.
At Microsoft, I'm not impressed with the.
I
That's
think
not what I'm
one thing
saying,
is,
but-
is the
This is cool, but but the actual Copilot, their marketed app. is
yeah,
just-
they dwindle the context size
Yeah.
and stuff on the models and stuff so that they can afford it.
Yeah, the dumbing down of the model, hits the market and it's super sharp, but then give it a couple months and every single one of them turn the dumb switch on and your model gets lobotomized and you get just garbage out. But until the next, someone else pushes something and then you get a
Yep.
couple more months of better response for it.
It's very interesting sometimes you be playing around with it and all of a sudden like you'll come in the next day and it's like, what is this thing doing? I think it lost its brain.
Yeah, what,
No way to do
like the amount of times of like, what the fuck have you just done, you stupid, like pressing the,
It's like it's been out drinking all night.
yeah, really.
That's kind of been my experience. When I did something like end of last year, maybe October, November, to try to just to play around with this. I had a database. It was like a simple CRUD application, and I'm like, forget the UI. I want to do this using semantic kernel to be able to like write my functions and essentially manage all my data. And I don't know, I wasn't super happy with it, and I couldn't figure out to get the retrieval augmented stuff working right so that it would read data from my database. Or I tried to put it in a vector store, and I didn't have a ton of luck with that. And I think at one point, like it was always hallucinating this one parameter value, and I had to like curse it out to make it stop. And as soon as I cursed at it, it started prompting
And,
for
and
it.
so there was actual, I saw a research paper where that actually did in fact improve the response for some models yelling and cussing at. It's interesting.
Seeing the whatever the reinforcement learning that goes on.
They start using curse words, start thinking more for a longer amount of time before you provide an answer.
Yeah. But that, no, I mean, amount of times it just, again, goes crazy. Like, what the hell did you just say? Like, undo all of that. I watched, Claude Code, I had an issue in a package.json. I made some changes, removed the library, and I added a semicolon, or comma at the end of one of my lines, which acted. I like it. And the fix was just go change and remove a couple of comments. But what it did is it wrote a Python script that changed and added some code directives at the top of every single code in every single file in my model repo. And so all of a sudden, thousands of changes were made, including the node modules, to change things like, what reinforcement calls that to be the thing that you did? It was like, there's a fundamental flaw in Node, so I'm gonna fix this fundamental flaw in Node by.
I think my favorite call interaction was like trying to get it to help me with something about the 10th time when it told me didn't work, it just went. Yes, it dropped the F-bomb.
Yeah.
But,
it was developed by programmers.
so what are you using AI for in your, are you actually using it in your applications? Like, is it being used by users or?
We're not,
You're
not at work,
Okay.
yet. We're just using it for agentic development, so trying to be more productive and have it help us write code faster, right now, that's kind of our focus, but.
So you don't need like spec-driven development with AI, where you start with kind of the user and then go through a whole process of think before code.
We're definitely using some of the plan mode, but we haven't used the structured spec model stuff yet. What's your experience been with that?
It's pretty much the only way I write code now. So in all my projects, it's pretty much every line of code is written first by AI, but every single thing is also like pull requested with you.
I'm seeing more people do it and checking into GitHub. Like you can tell people are taking more of that approach now.
Yeah. I've actually done some open source, agent framework that I use is, relatively new, and I've written some that I know nothing about the code base, but I do where the bug is, and there we go. Fix it, test it, validate it. But it does take a lot of upfront work to make that go well. It's not just bring a chat, YOLO, go get 2001, trying to 2000 pages, trying to change a bug in Node.js.
Yeah, so I just ran it and it's running. It's done 2 haikus at this point, maybe 3.
Test stuff, looks like.
Oh, there you go. And then there's a non, I think. Anything we explain. So we'll look at the code in a second. So we asked it to write a workflow that uses both the Haiku and the OpenAI client. And depending on what the user asks for, it'll choose which model or which agent to use. So it did a Haiku, it did Capital France. So you can see which one it's routing to here as well. And yeah, looks like it worked. Looks like okay. All right, so workflow demo. It has to create both clients.
It just wrote it designed.
Yeah.
That's why I was wondering what it was gonna do with,
Yeah, so it just it did it with not
yeah.
Alright, so the update the workflow demo to use the workflow abstraction. We'll see it both ways now. You could do it in C#, or you could build an orchestrator. We'll let that run for a second. I'll show something else that's cool, which I haven't tried yet, but I was going to try next. Where's that?
So have y'all tried using it with like, we've updated a lot of our projects to .NET 10. And since we've updated it to .NET 10, I feel like it's behaved a lot worse. Like, it doesn't seem, because like I had one last week that had an error on it, and it was just going down rabbit holes trying to fix it, and it just kept going deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole, and I couldn't get this. And part of it also was like I gave it context, and it's like, okay, so I gave it context, and it starts going off about this other class file that I have that I had not given it, but I had it open in Visual Studio, and even though apparently, like, it was just like, okay, well, you have this file open, so it doesn't matter if you gave that to get context or not. I see it's open, so I'm gonna grab it as context and pull it in.
It definitely does that.
And I was like, what?
So we're using the Copilot agent.
Yeah,
Copilot.
well, the Copilot was set to Claude.
Sure.
Is
it like called Sonnet 4.5?
4.5 or 4.6, I think.
I know that we've had a lot of, like, I've had a lot of experience with that same thing where it's incredibly frustrating, and I realize it's using one of the base models.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I have a license through my company, so use the premium.
Yeah.
But once you switch to the premium, it gets a lot smarter. I've also found that whether it's the Copilot CLI or the Claude CLI, the CLIs, in my experience, seem to do just a better job of analyzing the code and being able to figure things out. The Copilot's really nice sometimes for like generating code. I've got this file right here, optimize it, I got
Answer
a
questions.
performance or something, but I've spent the last 2 days at work going through problems in Dynatrace, trying to figure out what's wrong. Every one of them, I'll dump like, this is the path to the file, this is the error message that I'm getting, here's a little bit of context, and it's helped me solve every single one of them in the CLI.
When you say the CLI, you mean using like the terminal?
Yeah, so I'm using the Claude CLI, but I know Copilot has a CLI too now.
Yeah, so Yeah, I'm, let me see. I'll have to try open code.
So a lot of that is because the tools that it has access to and the feedback that it's getting is just better. It's not having to spin up shelves.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Chris was talking about the CLI, most of the big, agent providers, have some kind of an IDE integration, whether that's VS Code or whatever, but then they also have like a terminal CLI. GitHub, Copilot has one, Claude has one, all the major ones do, but that's interesting. I haven't noticed a big difference between the two. I also haven't had, if anything, it's worked better for me in the last few months in VS Code. But did you try clearing and starting new sessions?
Yeah, I started a new session when I started that, the whole
Well,
thing.
one thing I've caught it doing is, and I mean, it's good that it's doing it. It writes a bunch of context to files, and I'll start a new session, but it has all the documentation files, the MD files that are there still, that the old agent, and so the new agent says, oh, here's some good info, I'll pick up where that left off, and then I just get the same doom loop of, no, that's not what I want, I need you to take a different approach.
Yeah.
Keeping that clean, but also being intentional about what gets read in and what skills you do. But you said specifically with the upgrade to .NET 10, I wonder if it's just the amount of data it's been trained on, things have changed.
I've had to tell it multiple times, like, I'm asking about something that's relatively newer, please always check the documentation before you answer, and I'll notice it searches the web a lot more. It could also be that I'm using the Visual Studio 2026 plugin and not VS Code, and it always seems to lag behind VS Code.
Yes.
Because like, it's really locked into that context is the active file, and, you know, it tells me, hey, your issue could be some of these method calls, like, I'm not gonna check for you, but it might be that, and the CLI will go check it.
We're gonna change it, like I told you to do something, and I get, don't tell me what to go do, I'm telling you to go do it, you're the.
Do you use the Microsoft Docs MCP server? Because it's probably more reliable than just hoping that it will web search what it needs correctly.
There's another MCP too that's more general for like all languages.
Yeah.
What's that called?
I don't
I don't know if I'm very long, but yeah, it's, yeah.
But it's purpose-built, like,
Seven.
yes, contact center.
Here's my question. The last time we talked about, or the last time I was here, when we talked about it, was probably this meeting last year. You can only do MCP servers through Visual Studio Code, right? I'm assuming it's coming along.
Probably, I mean, I don't use Visual Studio. Generally, I imagine what you can.
I would be surprised if it's not supported everywhere now. MCP might have been new when, whatever the last meeting you were at, but by now, like, they're talking about skills and tools and sub-agents and all these other things. MCP is kind of old news. It's still very capable and very valuable, but I would expect that to table stakes for all of the platforms.
So what I've been using, I don't like cursors, tab completion stuff, it's total garbage and I hate if I need to open up. But if I'm gonna be typing in a file, I'm gonna turn all it off, it's just annoying. But Cursor has done a good job with all of their kind of infrastructure around the agents like sub-agents and skills and all of these things. So I've actually been very happy with that, kind of tied into my process, because I could run local, I can spin things off in the cloud. Things you can do with like Copilot chat as well, but Cursor just has better system prompts. They've done it better than what I've seen with others. And again, I hated Cursor up until like recently when I started using it. Their pricing model and picking from the other reason I need is I don't want to get stuck to one single provider. I need to be able to switch between whatever foundation model is the best. Or run multiple, like do 3 runs of the same build.
Percentage wise, in the last, say, 2 months, how much manual coding do you actually do?
changing code a lot. Again, pull request, everything is reviewed, but I'm not writing like lines of code very often. Typically it's, I tell the agent what to go do. Sometimes if it just screws up a couple times, it's a small enough thing and I'll go make the change, but, I do the first, where I'll do my, got all my user focused EDIs, they get turned into GitHub issues with broken down technical. The agent does the first pull request. I review it, and when I'm reviewing it, I open up in Cursor or VS Code, and then I'm like chatting with it, telling it what to go do, running it, doing the manual test, and then have it create the change settings, pull that into whatever feature branch. So I might have work on a single feature branch, and might have 5 sub-issues that are created to do different aspects of it. And then they pull back into the feature branch and pull into it. I do a lot of work trees as well, which is, that's probably my favorite feature in Cursor is I can help to do the build on a work tree. So it'll spit up the work tree for you and switch over to the
Work tree is like a separate folder where it's pulled, creates its own branch, and so you can have many different trees all working on different or agents.
Yeah, so it like does a virtual assembly copy of your main branch and then does whatever changes that are needed and pull that back in. That's a good.
Now, are you sending all of this code then through some kind of level of tests?
Oh, yeah.
Everything
so
is ready to
there's-
send?
Yeah, I start, after I get to thinking, there's a whole spec test phase that runs. And that's where using AI to write its own tests can be various levels of success, but it is at least a good start, and then I've got a pretty good regression tests that I do. But yeah, the whole process though, like that spec-driven development plus kind of figuring out the different sub-agents for this is my testing agent, this is my UI design, my architecture agent, my code review agent, figure out what skills they need does accelerate.
You done any of the, I know that there's browser extensions out there now that can go in and do browser testing, and you got any of that?
Not as much as I want to, and that's just a matter of it just hasn't been prioritized in a lot of them.
It's fairly new.
Yeah. Using like Playwright or Puppet up here. But yeah. Again, Cursor does a lot of that as well. Cursor has a nice built-in like browser tab that'll spin up.
I hadn't played with Cursor since right it came out.
I had not either. We talked about the bug bot being pretty good. So I tested that out, and in the process, I tried a month with Cursor, and now I like Cursor. Now, give me 3 months, something else going to come out. My opinion will change.
That's the way all this stuff you're asking about MCP servers, just like by the time you learn all this stuff, something else new is coming on.
Yeah, skills now, like that's skills and.
Oh, but now skills are bad.
Yeah, it's also skills are bad, yeah, the skills will be back, do you do RAG, do you not do RAG? Yeah, it's, we keep up with
There
it.
is an MCP server manager.
Well, see, it keeps changing, that's why you gotta keep coming to the .NET every month.
Right.
So right.
Yeah, it is crazy how fast this stuff, and even in like the orchestration agent that you're creating there, like when do you need a multi-agent flow? When does it make sense? Because I think the problem I had, multi-agent, I'm gonna do that, sounds good, makes sense, I'm gonna go grab these agents, they're gonna specialize. What I found is, if I wasn't careful, I ended up spending way more money in getting way lower quality results to my users, as opposed to just having a really good kind of master system that ran.
Yeah, I struggle with like understanding what exactly agents do. I've never set up agents for local development. And when I was messing with that app to try to, use AI to manage essentially the current operations of this app, I looked into, well, like, is that a good use case for using agents for like the different things you can do in the application? I don't know, I can never figure it out.
So I think it's a lot of testing, like you just gotta try things out, like I try to default to the most powerful model I'll have access to, because that's gonna be your best case, right? Like, if Opus 4.6 can't do it, it probably can't be done. But, start there and figure out what works and set that as your baseline, and then you can say, all right, well, Opus 4.6 worked in OpenAI or Microsoft Foundry, I'll try it on my local machine to see if it can do it, or try Gemini instead of Opus.
Well, I've heard of people doing these workflows where they've got multiple agents running, and like I send a request and you've got one agent that evaluates it one way and one evaluates it the other way, and like a reconcile it. And I think that kind of stuff to me is like, I'd love to see like a real life case of an application doing that.
I think they're also specific to your users, your business, your use case. Like that's why we will have jobs a year and 5 years from now. It's like they gotta have somebody that can architect it out and figure out what else should we try to make it better.
Yeah.
Because there's not hire the smartest architect and he can, design it the correct way the first time. There's gonna be hundreds of ways to solve these problems, and you just gotta try enough of them to find something that fits.
Yeah, maybe I don't fundamentally understand exactly what an agent does. It's one of those things where it's like I'm fumbling in the dark, trying to.
So
like,
generally, so an agent, so this is more inference, and you got the like, if you write the workflow, there might be an orchestration that says, all right, I've got these 5 different things I could do. It makes a decision on what it's going to go do, and it happens. Probably the most common when you hear agent is typically a tool use agent, which is the most fundamental. Like you get into when you're creating an agent, it's going to have a system prompt. It's going to have some level of context and memory that's in it, and then a list of tools that it's going to get. And then the agent will run in a tool loop where it says, all right, I've got this inbound request from the user, this input. Now I've got a set of instructions to tell me how to do things and a set of tools that I can use. I'm going to come up with what tools I use in what order, and I'm going to keep running them. I'm going to do this run, look at the output, do the next one, look at the output, and eventually, I ding the bell and give the user the final output. So that's what kind of at its most core, that is the agent. It's system prompt, list of tools, and some rules around when those tools can be used, what the output is.
The first kind of breakthrough, I think, was the natural language processing, where you could ask the same question 12 different ways, and the large language models got smart enough to where it could pull out the gist of all 12 of those, that they mean the same thing. Before that, it was like, all right, we're write a regex expression to try to pull it in, and none of it worked, right? But when they got to that level of being able to cull down phrases and sentences and tokens and identify what it thought it meant, that was kind of a key capability. And then we started adding all of these tools into it, and you combine the natural language processing with the tool capabilities, and it can start to do novel things. I mean, honestly, for me, forcing myself to it's like when we first started doing test-driven development, and like everybody said you should absolutely do it, but no one was doing it. And until I forced myself to do it and said, hey, I'm only going to write code that's test-driven for a month, I didn't really understand the full value, and then you just see it. I had a reporting script that one of my program managers was using, and she'd been bugging me for 3 weeks to fix 2 bugs that was on that report. After putting it off, I'm like, man, I don't want to have to go and relearn that whole script. It's like 150 lines long. And then I was like, wait a minute, I'll just give it to an agent and 15 minutes later it was fixed.
That's been my week, every week.
Yeah, and you're getting success through it.
I mean, we're talking like issues that when the stars align, they bring down prod.
Yeah,
I've been able to identify about 4 of those and just point Claude at it and say, I got this error, I got this class, what's wrong? And it figures it out, it implements a fix, I test it, and it works.
yeah. I mean, a lot of, YouTube videos are showing up just to understand how people are using it. David Fowler, the .NET architect that wrote Aspire, he had like 400 open issues on GitHub and hadn't looked at any bugs in it. And like, you know how most GitHub issues are, they're like, it didn't work. That's about it. And so he asked it to go through and try to reproduce as best it could each of the 400 and then fix the issue as best it could. And I think he was like, oh, it was over 300 out of the 400. It just did. Now, I have no idea what his attribute was, but.
And what code base he was doing that on, what size, what?
Yeah, I assume it was Aspire. I think it was Aspire. But, just for me, hearing about all the new use cases that people are successful with and the techniques, if y'all heard of Ralph loops.
Ralph loops.
I keep seeing that, but I have not there.
So it's basically a while loop, and you just say, hey, try to fix this problem or solve this issue, and do it with one agent at a time. And if it doesn't solve it, open up a new agent with a completely new context and just do it until you figure it out. And I'm sure you can put guardrails around it to try 100 times or something, but the idea is because these agents aren't deterministic for most cases, they will come up with different answers every time. And so you could say, hey, if it's a hard problem, go do a while loop for 100 iterations each time with a brand new context and try to solve this problem. And then you end up with 100 solutions, or you finally find a solution. But
That sounds like a great way to sell tokens.
So that's another part with a lot of it is, a lot of these, like I wanna try with 3 different things and figure out, that's, a lot of the kind of stuff is either academic, where it's coming from like researchers, and it's research is not necessarily operationalized, because we're so cutting the edge on this, like we're still like working on things that are just coming out of research settings, or it's, Chris Sims figures out something and does a post that some other people start doing, and it's not necessarily, it's trying to figure out where the right rigor is and where the testing and what actually works versus what feels or seems like it works is.
Yeah, I mean, you go on Reddit, on Reddit, subreddit, it's just been years people be like, oh my god, I figured out the ultimate trillion agents, like Super Omega.
I said $10,000 on tokens, so you don't have to.
So figure it out, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been down this path so many times. I mean, a new something like this comes out.
Yeah.
And everybody's just trying to, and this is where we're at the infancy stage. I mean, this stuff is gonna be changing so rapidly over the next several years. And it's gonna be at least 4 or 5 years before things really start settling down. And eventually we'll get to, everybody's just kind of tweaking a little bit.
Yeah.
There's not really these big things.
Right.
But for several years here, I mean, what I tell my students, I said, play with it, use it, kind of dib around with it, but just know that probably in 3, 4, 5 months, there's gonna be another something.
Yeah.
So don't get too bogged down in trying to learn this thing, because it's gonna be the answer.
Well, that's the important thing, you can't get, so figure out what tools allow you to use the different foundation models. I will say the foundation models are slowing down. We're not seeing, from GPT-2 to 3, took a while, but 3 to 5 was a very short period of time, but now we're not seeing, we're seeing these tiny increments of change that really aren't.
Open source models are catching up now.
Yeah. I think we're seeing some,
Hardware's gotta catch up.
yeah, I still will never even
Try to find a GPU these days, see where the hardware is.
yeah, seriously.
Bring it right there.
You know, that was my problem trying to write that CRUD app, is that in the month that I tried to play around with it, everything changed at least twice.
Yep.
Like this way to do it doesn't work anymore. And then, like the AI, maybe I probably didn't have the right tools at the time. The AI I was using to try to help figure things out was just constantly wrong.
Yeah.
Everything it told me was from last month, it didn't work anymore.
Yeah, stuff does change, but I mean, like, I've been using the coding CLI for more than a year now, and like,
What?
the coding CLI has on form, Claude Code, and now I use Codex, and like, you know, there's all sorts of like specialized things you can do, prompting and whatever, and like, all that is good, that can help you get where you need to go, but like, at the same time, you can still get a lot of value by just telling it to do the thing a lot of the time.
I do know, like, maybe about 12 years ago, I had to use the Wix tool set to write an MSI installer, and it took me forever. Last night, I gave it everything I needed. I need you to prompt them for this values, and I need you to update the app settings.json after install. Like, it was fairly complicated what I needed it to do. And then I went to dinner and it ran for 25 minutes and wrote me a working installer.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, is like, we're all gonna have those death loop, scenarios, or those times when like, you wanna curse at it and say, why aren't you doing what I asked you to do? But at the same time, there's those magical moments where I'm, for the 7th time, it worked for some reason in the middle of the demo. When does that ever happen? The demo always fails, it doesn't succeed.
I mean, I wrote an enterprise app being used by like Nestle and things like that. I did it myself in a very short period of time.
Yep.
We're all cursing at these models and they do exactly just like humans did. Imagine
Yeah.
us back in the very beginning of learning the program, you'd bash your head against the wall for 2 days trying to figure out a problem. And then you finally get it, oh, okay, this is
Yeah.
great. And you move on and, you know, a week or two, and then
I keep trying, like, I still have people that are worried that it's gonna take their job and stuff, and it's like, this is just a different way to work. You're
you use AI, it's gonna take their job.
Exactly, well, and that's the thing, is like, that's what I'm telling them, is like, this is enabling you to be a manager and an architect way faster than the traditional junior development pipeline, which is, well, you gotta put 3 years in to get to a mid-level, and then you can get to a senior, and then you can be a lead, right? And this is like, I just paid $1,000 for you to have Copilot, and you have, 100 agents you can use right now. Do with them what you will.
Well, even this week, I was using it to fix all those bugs, there were things that it was suggesting where, because, I've been doing this for so long, like you're doing a query in a loop, you win, and there's a better way to do it. Like, I was correcting it, so I was like, you still have to know what it writes and what the
Well, that's the real problem is there's not, what we are doing, and I think the big risk is we're taking away that pipeline. The reason I'm skilled and can do what I do with the agents is because I have a lot of experience writing this code, and that we're taking away from early career new people, so how are we going to, if I give someone straight out of college 100 agents and tell them to go write something, holy hell, like, I don't know that I never trust that to be.
Well, I mean, look, that's why we are working this in.
Yeah,
I mean, we are foolish to say to students, don't use this.
yeah,
I mean, we're telling them,
you have to, yeah.
play around with it. We need you to understand what it can do and what it can't do. How can we use it? We're right now trying to rethink how we're gonna restructure some classes and stuff like that,
So how are you thinking about though that the experience that comes from beating your head against the wall and like solving a thing? I mean, I know like we've had different tools, it was Stack Overflow, we've progressed, yet there's still a lot to be said, a lot of learning you get by having to figure it out yourself.
Well, they have to know what code is.
Right.
They gotta know the basics, variables, control structures,
Sure.
loops, all those kinds of things, and they gotta do it. But at the same time, they've also gotta see how does that look when it's created by an AI agent or a tool, an AI something, right? They gotta see what that looks like. And so right now, we're kind of thinking compare and contrast kinds of things and stuff like that.
Yeah, how would you do it different?
Right. And just play with it. I mean, that's really what we're just saying. Even as teachers, I come into class and I say, today we're just gonna play with this. I have no idea what this is. Let's find out.
So we are still actively hiring developers right out of college.
Sure.
We have an internship program because it is really hard to find senior developers. And so if we don't continue to have that funnel, that pipeline of developing talent, it will dry up, right? But we're giving them a Copilot license on day one, and for them, it's slightly different of, hey, use it to help you write code, but then understand that code. And if you don't understand the code, ask the agent, hey, how does this work? What should I be looking at? And then we still have all the guardrails around unit testing and code peer review by an actual person. We are doing AI peer reviews as well. But we have those senior people, the architects, that are still part of the process and making sure that we're not just blindly using whatever the agents give us, because if we do, we were only able to create those agents based on all the code that people actually wrote.
Right.
If people stop writing code, then it's just this loop of, well, I was trained 20 years ago on how to write C#, and I'm just doing that over and over again. And so we gotta stay in the process, and it's about being intentional about investing in your junior people, making sure they're using the AI tools correctly, and you're building that talent over time, I think.
But let's be honest, I remember when code completion came out, everybody was like, they're not gonna understand what they're coding. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's what I was sitting there thinking, it's like, man, it wasn't that many years ago, we were sitting around talking this excited about, hey, have you seen Visual Studio? I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
So, I guess it's such
have an ID.
That wasn't many years ago.
Unfortunately, I was around.
Yeah. Let's do it,
It was a while, it was a while.
But also, just to let you know too, I just had a student this day, former student, message me and say, hey, I finally got a job. He's working at Blue Cross Blue Shield. You know what he's coding with?
Oh, wow.
Cool. I would love spending time with an AI agent working with a COBOL. See what it comes up with.
I can't remember the name.
It's JCL.
So I was working with this customer, and they had this language, and they wrote it, it's a, big investment, so it's software to do, advanced math, statistics, analytics, and it's got symbols, so not like characters, you'll pull up the Omicron symbol, and that does certain things, so function names, and it's just weird, not MATLAB, it's a compiled language, and I'm like, there's no way AI can write anything in this, but I actually had it write a working application, with the user, and this super, that I'd never heard of.
I would bet AI would probably do pretty good. There's so much COBOL code, as long as it was trained on it, it could probably handle it.
All right,
I was surprised even when they trained on it, but.
yeah. All right, so let's bring it home.
It was able to do, so it did update, and it created a routing chat client, and so it's using both my OpenAI chat client and the Ollama, and then it comes through here and did what it was doing before. It gives it various prompts for back and forth between asking for a haiku and not, and
So is that routing chat client one built in? Because that's
yeah, I think that's
model routing's a pain in the ass, and that's
Mhm.
a cool feature of that.
yeah, it goes back to this one where I think there's different routing types that you can explore, whether it's a handoff or concurrent or sequential. So I'm
Do you have an example of the sequential?
I don't. Let's see though.
So that's basically OpenAI determines which one of those it needs to use.
I guess I don't know. I just had this write the code.
So typically, I would have a small model, like a nano model that looks at the inbound prompt. That probably has some rules, heuristics to figure it out. But some more complex ones will actually run an LLM to figure out, based on this input of the 15 models that I have here, which one should you use.
Specialized client to route incoming messages to the appropriate backend service. So this is basically just, hey, you create several agents, and it'll figure out which one to give it to. So you're using the agent to decide, who should get this work. But again, like there's probably a dozen different routing mechanisms built into the framework. We don't have time to go through them all, but
It's basically, when you define what the agent is, you just describe what it is that it is responsible for
yeah,
handling. and that's
yeah.
what
So
it
like
is.
when we gave it these system prompts, was it up here? It's defined, not that one. So when we go to the Llama one, we told it you're a helpful assistant running a local language, or locally via Olama. The other one talked about, I forget what the other one was, but you're telling it, hey, here's what you do, and so the agent can say, hey, what do you do? What do you do? And figure out like what's the best one. So
Is that what it does? Does it just literally check based on the system prompt?
I would
Usually
expect
it's
so,
probably also some metadata that it can pull back, like.
because I'm not telling it anything else.
Right.
There's probably some functions in there that you can be more granular.
Right. Yeah, I know.
I mean, but all it has is what I've told it, which is
Right,
this.
but I mean, there's probably some classes that you can use and some variables that you can set values to.
It may go down to like embeddings
Yes.
and say, hey, I'm not going to read your system prompt and say, what does UR mean? And it's going to call that down and just be like, hey, here's tokens that describe what I do. And it's like, all right, your tokens match what I'm looking for better than mine or whatever. So
So is there no description or anything that it generated when that client got created, or whatever client is processing that?
nope, these are the only instructions I gave it. And really, it's just this line. And so it starts out as just a large language model that just is a do everything model. And then you can give it specialized tools or data or whatever and give it instructions and say, hey, you're really good at this. You should be doing this. And then, like, I wrote one for a personal project, and I just told it, it's like, if anyone asks about anything else, just say, I don't do that. And so then it's hyper focused to, I'm only going to help answer questions on this topic. So that was the workflow one. It combines those two together, and there's all kinds of ways that you can integrate different models and other things together. But the last thing I wanted to make sure to show was this Dev UI. So this is this might be an extension maybe. It's a separate GitHub repo. Yeah, so Dev UI sample for running agents on the workflow. So here you can actually start to model out the different workflows. I have not used this at all, but I saw it and I thought, oh, that's cool. We gotta play with that. And so it knows about what agents I have, and
Okay, go ahead, type something in there. You can get it all philosophical.
yeah, I know.
We'll see how long Olama cranks in your.
But the point is, like, here's just yet another tool that we can use. And I don't know how you get to the workflow, but this looks really cool, where you can see and visualize what is it doing and see the traces. That was another thing about the agent framework, is they have really good observability. Uses open telemetry protocol, and has all of that built in.
You said agent dev UI?
Yes, Dev UI is the package name or whatever, and it's part of the agent framework.
It speaks really slowly.
Running Olama on a laptop.
And so is this just a UI on top of the agents you set up?
It is, yeah. Yeah, so it's just it's a tool that the agent framework provides that helps you visualize and work with.
That's part of that AG UI, that agent, AG user interface.
I have not seen that, so explain that.
So every LLM out there has got a chat client. Every agented framework is basically wrapped around some form of chat. So what AGUI does is says, all right, needs to be a standard. So it defines like what a message is, what the parts are, how do you show tools. It's a standard that different libraries will be able to use. So there's React is probably some of the most common ones are in React because most of the chat stuff you see out there is written in a React app of some kind. But it's got a few like Assistant UI, you did Copilot Kit, that's another one of the frameworks, Vercel AI SDK. So these are lots of different libraries that can then implement the AGUI protocol and connect any agent that then exposes an AGUI endpoint. So it's just a way of, it's HTML, HTTP, but for agents to actually display information. Cool. That's why they all look the same. Yeah. I mean, we go into one chat app, you've seen almost all of them.
Yeah. Cool. Well, this was a very lively discussion. Thank you all for being here. We've got, I think, a special event next month that I can't talk about yet, but it'll be cool. I can kind of say it has to do with like the history of .NET, and it's also going to be our 10-year anniversary. So I saw that notice today that we have officially been doing this for 10 years now. So that's pretty cool. So we'll see y'all next month for that. I should be announcing that very soon, I think. But if anybody else has any ideas on other things that we should talk about or do, we can always do more AI. I'm sure something will change in 4 weeks.
I could do a kind of next step talk, but it would be in Mastro or Vault Agent, one of the nodes, kind of going through more detail what an agent is and what the different.
Cool. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all again. See you next month.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. Go back to that agent UI.